Okay, so I want to make a pass at some really simple, basic AI for our enemies. Now, we're going to build into our enemies a lot of variation, or a couple instances of variation. But the core concept here is going to be that the enemies are going to move and they'll throw snowballs back at us. So we're going to set up a really simple scenario first, just to kind of get the core concept working. And I'm going to get started by just creating something that will launch snowballs back at us. Okay. So I have this snowman object. I'll make this available to you in the lesson folder. But I'm just going to call this snowman with projectile for now. And he's going to throw snowballs. So as part of this, I'm going to create an empty game object. And this is just going to be, this will be my spawn object for the snowman with projectile. So I'm actually going to move him down to the bottom of the list here so I can just focus on it for a few minutes a little bit more clearly. So I have this empty game object. I'm going to zero out its coordinate system. I'm going to move it up, and then I'm also going to spin it around. Okay, so I'll tap the F key to frame this and zoom in a little bit. So I kind of want this over here in this direction. I also want it to rotate, because when we want this to spawn, we want it to adopt its Z direction. Remember, the Z direction is the forward direction, so I'm just going to make sure that is forward facing, so that whenever we spawn an object, and in fact maybe I'll even spawn this over kind of by the right hand of the snowman. Our snowman will be right-handed. Okay, and I'll worry about animation a little bit later. Okay, so there's my enemy snowball spawn point. Okay. And I'm going to create just a real simple state machine. I'll actually attach this to the spawner for now, and I might move this later. But I'm at a state machine, and this is my my enemy throw. Okay, so my enemy's throwing snowballs at me. Okay, and I'm going to create just a real simple loop. We're going to have an idle state, and we're going to have a throw state. Try that again. Throw state. Okay, and on the idle state, we're going to want we'll want a throwing or throw event, and we'll probably also want a reset event. So from our idle state, we're going to transition to throwing, and from our throwing state, we'll go back to reset. Now, the throwing state, we could either wait here, or we could wait later. We'll figure out where to wait. I'll probably wait in the idle state. So I'll jump over to our throwing state here for a minute. And this is where we're going to create our game object. So we'll do game object. I want to create a game object, and the game object that I'm going to create, again, I'm going to use for now, I'm going to use the snowball inside our game scene. But again, once we prefab this object, I'm going to have to reconnect this. So I'm pretty much getting to the point where I want to start thinking about prefabbing that soon, but I still like being able to test it outside in the scene view at this point. So we're spawning our object. It's going to have the same parameters in that it's going to fling itself through the air. Okay. And rather than having a reset, I guess, I need a finished transition in here somewhere. I need to wait, and then I kind of want to automatically forward this. So I think what I'll do, I think the logic I'm going to go with here is I'll just add a wait state to the same place where we're creating the game object, and we'll wait for 1 second for now, and we'll pass it to reset. Our idle state, for now, I'm just going to add this transition event as finished. Okay, so the logic here is that we start off in the idle state, we pass it to the throw state. Okay, we wait a second, and then we reset. So at this point, every second, our enemy should launch a snowball. Okay, it's throwing snowballs kind of in our direction, but not really at us right now. Okay, we'll fix that in a few minutes. Okay. Seems a little frequent. I'm actually going to slow that down a little bit to about 2 seconds. So the only other thing we really need to do to get this spawner to start pointing at us is we'll just do a look at. We'll do a smooth look at. We'll probably do the trick. And we're going to use our parent object, right? That's our enemy spawner. So we want that enemy spawner to look in the direction. Ultimately, we'll probably want the whole snowman to look at us, but for now, I just want to kind of get the core mechanic to work. And the target object, for now, is going to be the first-person controller until we give it a more appropriate name. So at this point, this spawn object should point at our player object, and the result is that it should start lobbing snowballs in our direction. So if we stay put, we run the risk of getting clobbered. Okay, but I'm a little short right now, so I'm going to modify with my first-person controller. In fact, it kind of feels like I'm crawling around on the ground. So I'm going to modify that here in just a few minutes, and I'll do that offline. But for now, we have this snowman that's kind of, throwing snowballs at us, right? So this will feel a little bit more appropriate once we get the snowman to actually face us and point in this direction. But, for now, he's doing what he's supposed to do. So in the next presentation, we're going to add a level of refinement. We'll just kind of make a pass, and we'll do some things like add a little crosshair on our heads-up display and start thinking in terms of a game manager. But we'll do that in the next presentation.